Hey, it's Kimberly Knight. I just wanted to get on and share a few things with you. Come on, tag a friend, tell them to come on into this live. I'm going to grab a friend or two and just share some of the things that I was having a conversation with a friend of mine today about. And she said to me, people need to hear this stuff. This is the things that these are the things that kind of trip us up, and we don't get to where we need to be in life and in God because nobody's talking about them. So I'm just going to share some of our conversation with you, and it was just about 5 things that indicate a new season in your life, right? So there's like 5 things, core things that are going to say, hey, I'm in a new season. The first one was, you start getting restless, inexplicably restless. Just, I can't put my finger on it, but something's got to be different. Something's got to change. I can't go where I want to go, but I'm not where I was. I'm not quite sure what to do, but I got to do something, right? So you get that restlessness, this feeling like something is different. A lot of people lose it here because what we do is then we try to fill it with the familiar. But if there's a new season upon us, then what was familiar won't be satisfying, right? So then we start to fill illegitimately a legitimate need. So we'll fill it with parties or relationships or something that is not beneficial. So when you start to get that restless feeling, take a pause for the cause. Check yourself so you don't wreck yourself, because what you don't want to do is to come to a place where you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Real talk. Also, number 2. So a lot of times we're coming into a new season and we don't even realize it because we're so busy living our lives. We don't stop when we've made major changes or we've had something major happen. So I'll give you an example, right? There's been a birth or a death, or you've moved, or you've gotten a new position, or you've left a position. You've started a new business. You've made a major life shift. Your children have left the nest. Don't worry, they come back. But you make these major life changes and you don't move your life along with the shift. So you're still operating in yesterday's ways, but you have a whole new way of being or doing, or you've moved on, right? And I'll be honest with you, that happened to me when my father passed away. He was gone for about 6 months before I realized I was keeping the same routine as I did when he had been sick for so long, because it was just part of me. And it really took a lot for me to say, wait a minute, my life took a big shift. I need to look at that. Let me look at where I am, where I need to go, and what needs to change, right? So take that time. You've had a major life shift. Make sure that you're taking the time that you need to examine where you are, where you're going, and what's next. Also, number 3, your self-care needs are going to be very different, right? So if your self-care in the last season consisted of manicures and pedicures, well, honey, that's not going to work in this new season, right? So your self-care need will be something that speaks to this season, because you have a new level, which means you have new responsibilities, which means you're going to have a new infilling, right? So you can't do the old stuff because it's just not going to satisfy. It's not going to refresh you. It's not going to replenish you. Here's the other thing. I hear a lot when we start talking about self-care, about vacations and making sure we take our lunch hour, and that's great. But I'm talking about building in self-care so that you don't feel like you have to escape from your life. So that a vacation is for enjoyment and rest and relaxation, regrouping, reconnecting with your spouse or your family or your significant others. It's not about escaping a life that you no longer want to live, right? So I'm talking about us being a triune being, right? We're spirit, soul, and body. So your self-care should reflect replenishment in all 3 areas: spirit, soul, and body. So if you're attending services and you're attending to your spirit and you are praying and fasting, that's great. And you are attending to the spirit. But what about your soul and your body? Some of us need to get into counseling, and that's part of our self-care. Deal with that soulish stuff What you don't deal with will eventually deal with you. Some of us need to work on the body. Now listen, don't come for the girl. I already know. So, making sure that we're getting enough sleep, rest and sleep are different. Making sure that we're hydrating properly. A lot of us are dehydrated. We're not drinking enough water every day. And when we do drink things, we drink things that actually draw water out of our bodies, like coffee and caffeinated drinks and carbonated drinks. Making sure that we're eating for nourishment and not for enjoyment or stress relief, and those kinds of things. So when we talk about spirit, soul, and body, we're talking about buying really good body care for yourself. Okay, it's not flashy to be ashy, okay? Lotion yourself, moisturize. Moisture is your friend. Go ahead, buy the good stuff. Buy it and use it consistently, right? It's okay to get older. That's a blessing, but to look old, that's unnecessary. There's too many creams, lotions, notions, and potions for you to age anything less than gracefully. So do those things. Take care of yourself. Invest in yourself. Now, I'm going to give a shout out to my single sisters. You can never ask a man to invest in you and your future in a way you're not. So if you're not taking care of your self-care, if you're not attending to yourself, you can't expect anyone else to, right? And when he meets you, he is meeting the you that you've cultivated. So cultivate her. Take very good care of her. Get your self-care in place. You can't give yourself if you haven't attended to yourself. We'll talk more about that in another video. Number 4, your need for support is going to be greater, right? So you have greater responsibilities in the new season. You're going to have a greater outpouring, so you're going to need more support. So that means you may have to hire an assistant. You may have to hire a coach. Let's say that the life shift I talked about earlier was now that you're working as an entrepreneur from your home and you have children. You may have to hire a babysitter to come in for a few hours a day so that you can work uninterrupted. So if you have identified that you're going into this new season, then you have to make sure you've examined your needs for support, because a lot of times we lose the game right there. Get the support you need. Number 5, when you're going into a new season or you're starting to step into your next season or your next level, you cannot tolerate conversations that are stuck. It is like nails on the chalkboard. I get the chills when I say that. When the teacher used to scrape her nails against the chalkboard to get people's attention? I hated that. That's what stuck conversations sound like. People are still having the same old tired complaint and conversation that they were having 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, sometimes a decade ago. And you just can't process it anymore. You're just not there anymore. So you feel that it's weighing on your spirit, it weighs on your person, and you don't look forward to having conversation with that person anymore because they're stuck. And you've decided that you are not building your house on this sinking sand anymore. So now you have to look at your relationships. So when we talk about support and we talk about not being able to tolerate conversations and people that are stuck, we're talking about now your circle just might change. Sometimes the circle changes in order to support this new season. I've heard it said, and I wish I could credit the person who said it, that if you become the smartest person in your circle, it's time for a new circle. Some of us, it's time for a new circle. Now, I'm going to give a caveat here. Some of us have become walk-away queens and kings, and I'm not talking about that, right? I'm not talking about cutting everybody off. This is not an excuse not to practice good conflict resolution skills, right? So we cannot cut off every relationship every time someone says something we don't want to deal with. I'm talking about not having, being stuck, not being in that stuck place with people, and you just make a decision. You know what? Today is the day I move on. Now, hopefully, you'll catch up. You don't even have to have that conversation, but in your mind and in your spirit, you're saying, you'll catch up, but I can't do this. I'm not going to gossip. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to have that same conversation. I don't want to hear about the unforgiveness. I know your feelings got hurt, but there does come a time when you just got to pick it up and move on. I'm going to give you a bonus one because this one really spoke to me. What seemed extra in the last season may be a necessity or wisdom for the next season, right? So this sounds really, really silly, but my husband always valet parks at the mall. And when we first got together, I was like, what a waste of money. Oh my God, it would drive me crazy. I'm like, that is $6 to valet park at the mall. But I have to tell you, in the new season, it became the standing joke in my house. $6 now, if I have to ride around for 10 or 20 minutes looking for a spot, then I have to park, then I have to come back through the parking lot, then I have to go up the stairs and around the corner. I'm just not doing that. I give that man $6. They know us. They know where we like to park our car. They know all that kind of stuff. I give him $6 to pay for the valet. I give him a tip. I'm generous because I don't want my car scratched. Don't be cheap. But luxury on your level. Now, years ago, when I was a single mom, I couldn't do stuff like that, right? It was a waste of money. But now, where I'm billing for my time as a consultant, when I'm coaching, when I'm working with clients, I bill by the hour. So if I'm wasting an hour parking and walking back and forth and finding my car, because I always have to do the little emergency button thing so I can find out where I parked my car and all that, I'm not doing that. I've just wasted an hour where I could have either sown into someone's life, I could have ministered, I could have done a live, I could have called a client, I could have done some marketing. I am not willing to lose my time. Time is the one thing that you cannot regenerate. Yes, it makes sense because you can't buy it back. Time and land are the two things you can't buy back, right? And you can't just create out of air. So now I have to be wiser with my time. So I'm going to give you an example. A famous, who shall remain nameless, cosmetic company was giving away free products. And my daughter was like, yeah, we should go. I'm like, yeah, cool, mother-daughter time. All right, I'm here for it. So we went down to the mall, to this very same mall, and yes, I valet parked. So we go down to the mall. The line had to be 200-300 people deep. I mean, easily 200 or 300 people deep. It snaked around the whole court, the area in the mall. It wrapped around itself 2 or 3 times. We looked at each other. I was like, absolutely, positively not. Now, let's do the math here. So I'm going to get on the end of this line. There's 200 people in front of me, literally, which means I'm going to be here 3-4 hours. I mean, just off the top of my head, 3 or 4 hours. Now I am going to have wasted that time. So what that free lipstick, that $20 lipstick really represents is 4 hours worth of wasted time that I could have sown into my business. Now, if you make $100 an hour, that $20 free lipstick just cost you $400. Let's do this again. If you make $100 an hour and you stood there for 3 or 4 hours, then what you just did was you got a free lipstick that cost you $300 or $400. It doesn't make sense, right? So being very mindful about how you spend your time, who you spend it with, knowing that you need support. Things need to be done, but they don't need to be done by you. Hello. Affording luxury on your level. When you're coming into a new season, all of that matters. All of that matters. So I hope this was helpful. This was a kind of conversation my sister friend and I were having. I tell you, I got on there just to say, hey, miss you, can't wait to see you, want to spend some time. And by the time God finished with us, we were, oh my gosh, iron was sharpening iron. Sparks were flying all over the place. And what should have been a 10-minute conversation was a whole hour of impartation, right? So I just wanted you to get the benefit of what we had today. I hope you like this, and I'll be back soon. Love you.